Do you know anyone who wakes up every day with the intention to focus, but the moment they sit down to work, their mind pulls them in 10 different directions? They want to read, but their phone buzzes. They want to study, but their thoughts wander. They want to finish an important task, but suddenly cleaning the room feels more urgent than the work they've avoided for weeks. Maybe this person has tried productivity apps, timers, caffeine, study playlists, motivational videos, deleting social media, reinstalling social media, and promising themselves that tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow arrives, and nothing changes. You've probably met someone who says they can't focus because they are just built this way. Their mind races. They feel restless. Their concentration breaks as soon as they try to hold it. And maybe that person is you. But what if I told you there is an ancient Chinese method that was designed to deal with this exact problem? A method used by scholars, monks, generals, and students for more than 1,000 years. A method built on one mind focus. It's simple, it's quiet, and it's brutally effective. Before we break it down step by step, I invite you to subscribe, like the video, and tell me one thing. What is the biggest distraction that blocks your mind every day? I read every comment, and many of the videos I make come from what you share. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. The Scholar Who Couldn't Sit Still. He was known for being talented, sharp memory, strong curiosity, natural intelligence. But he had one problem that destroyed everything he tried to build. He couldn't sit still long enough to finish anything. His name was Liang. Born in a small village near Suzhou, he dreamed of passing the imperial exams, becoming an official, and lifting his family out of poverty. Everyone expected great things from him, but his mind didn't cooperate. The moment he opened a book, his thoughts ran ahead of him. He'd read one sentence and drift into daydreams. He'd try to memorize a passage, but his mind jumped from one idea to another like a monkey leaping between branches. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't stupid. He simply couldn't hold his attention steady. His teacher noticed it immediately. Liang's handwriting was excellent, but he never finished his practice sheets. His essays started strong, but lost clarity halfway through. His study sessions always ended early because he felt mentally tired. Distraction wasn't a small inconvenience for him. It was a chain around his neck. One afternoon, after watching Liang fidget restlessly during another failed study session, his teacher quietly closed the book, stood up, and said, "Come with me." He led Liang to the old temple on the hill, one that had existed long before their village. Its courtyard was silent. No noise, no movement, just wind pushing through bamboo leaves. Inside the temple lived one monk, Elder Chun. He was a man with clear eyes and slow movements, like someone who had mastered the art of being fully present in every breath. Liang bowed clumsily. Chun nodded. The teacher spoke. "This boy has a brilliant mind that runs too fast for his own good." Chun studied Liang for a moment, then said, "Sit." Liang sat on a cushion. "Now," Chun continued, "hold a single thought." Liang tried. He tried to focus on one idea, a candle flame. But within seconds, other thoughts pushed in, his unfinished chores, a conversation from earlier, what he would eat later, the sound of the wind, the itch on his neck. Chun gently tapped him with a wooden stick. "You lost it." Liang blushed. He tried again, but the same thing happened. Another tap. "You lost it again." After several attempts, Liang grew frustrated. "How can I stop the thoughts?" he asked. "You can't," Chun said. "Your mind is a river. You are trying to block the water with your hands. That only makes the river wilder." Liang frowned. "Then what should I do?" Chun smiled. "You do not block the river. You choose one leaf and follow it." Liang didn't understand. Chun lifted a single grain of rice from a bowl. "This grain is your task. One task, one thought, one focus. Everything else is noise." He placed the grain of rice into Liang's palm. "Hold this, not with your hand, with your mind." It sounded strange, even ridiculous. But Liang tried. He stared at the grain. He tried to feel its shape, its weight, its presence. His mind wandered 10 times, but each time, Chun tapped him. not to punish him, but to remind him. For the first time in his life, Liang became aware of how chaotic his mind really was. Hours passed, the sun dropped, and then something happened. Liang's breathing slowed, his shoulders dropped, his eyes softened, his thoughts stopped scattering like frightened birds. He found himself inside a still moment. For the first time, he felt what it was like to hold one single point of focus. Chun saw it and whispered, "That is one mind." Liang didn't fully understand the power of it yet, but this was the day his life broke open, because now he knew the truth. The ability to focus wasn't talent. It wasn't motivation. It wasn't personality. It was a skill trained through the ancient Chinese principle of Yixin, one mind. A skill he could learn, and tomorrow he would begin. Chapter 2. The training begins. One task, zero escape. Liang woke before sunrise the next day. He didn't sleep well. His mind kept replaying the moment he finally held his focus the day before. That brief stillness he had never felt in his entire life. It wasn't excitement. It was curiosity mixed with disbelief. Was it a fluke? Was it luck? Could he do it again? The village was quiet as he walked back up the hill to the temple. A thin mist drifted across the path. Bamboo leaves carried the sound of soft rain from the night before. Everything around him felt calmer than usual, almost as if the world itself was asking him to listen. Elder Chun was already awake, sweeping the courtyard with slow, controlled movements. Liang bowed. "You came," Chun said. "You told me to return." "No," Chun replied softly. "I gave you the chance. You chose to take it." That sentence stayed in Liang's mind for the rest of the day. Inside the temple, Chun placed 3 objects in front of him. A single brush, a blank sheet of rice paper, a bowl of water. Liang waited for instructions. Chun said only 2 words. "One stroke." Liang frowned. "That's all." "That is everything," Chun replied. He explained, "You will dip the brush. You will breathe. You will drag the tip of the brush across the paper in 1 stroke. Not fast, not slow, just one movement, and your entire world must become that stroke." It sounded simple. It wasn't. Liang dipped the brush, lifted it, and touched the paper. His heart jumped. He dragged the brush across the sheet, but halfway through, he lost control of the pressure. The line wobbled, then smudged. His mind immediately filled with disappointment. Chun tapped the floor with his stick. "You lost the stroke." Liang tried again. Dip, lift, place, drag. The moment the brush touched the paper, sounds rushed into his mind. A bird outside, his breathing, his thoughts about yesterday, his thoughts about dinner, his thoughts about failing. The stroke broke. "You lost the stroke again." Liang felt embarrassment rising in him. "But it's only a line." Chun replied, "A line is easy. Your mind is not." He tried again, and again, and again. For 2 hours, every stroke failed. The brush slid too quickly. His hand shook. His mind drifted. His frustration grew. "Why can't I do this?" Liang finally asked. Chun took the brush from his hand, dipped it once, and drew a single straight line, clean, balanced, steady. "How did you do that?" Liang asked. "Because I was not drawing a line," Chun said. "I was practicing attention." Liang felt the weight of the lesson settle. He had never truly done one thing at a time in his entire life. Even when he wrote, he thought of what he needed to do afterward. Even when he read, he worried about whether he would understand it. Even when he tried to rest, his mind raced. His mind was loud, and he had mistaken noise for thinking. Chun picked up a new sheet of paper. "You will learn 3 truths today," he said. First, your mind runs because you chase it. Second, attention is not natural. It is trained. Third, you do not need to control your thoughts. You only need to return. Liang repeated the last part under his breath. "You only need to return." "Again," Chun said. Liang drew another line. Failed. Again. Failed. Again. Failed. But each time he noticed something. The failures became clearer. He saw exactly when his focus broke. He felt the moment his attention slipped. He recognized the instant his mind jumped to another thought. He was not improving the strokes. He was improving his awareness. Chun watched him closely. "What do you feel?" he asked. Liang answered honestly. "I feel how weak my focus is." Chun nodded. "Good. A man who does not see his weakness cannot strengthen it." When noon arrived, Liang was exhausted, mentally more than physically. His head ached. His eyes were sore. His shoulders felt tight. But in this exhaustion, he discovered another truth. Distraction wasn't a moral failure. It wasn't laziness. It wasn't lack of discipline. It was training he never had. Chun poured tea and handed him a cup. "This is the first stage of one mind," he said. "Single focus training. You practice focus in simple tasks so you can apply it to difficult ones." Liang nodded. "Does everyone start with drawing lines?" "No," Chun said. "Some start with sweeping the floor, others with stacking stones, some with breathing. But for you, the brush reveals your mind." After tea, Chun stood and pointed to the courtyard. "Now you will do a different task, one you cannot escape." He walked Liang to a small area where dozens of smooth stones were piled against the wall. "Take one stone, carry it to the other side of the courtyard. Place it down. Return. Repeat." Liang waited for the deeper meaning. Chun looked him straight in the eye. "The moment your mind drifts, you will place the stone down wrong. And I will know." Liang sighed internally. Another task that seemed too simple to matter. But after 3 stones, he realized the real challenge. His mind tried to run every time he picked one up. He thought of the exam he had to pass. He thought of his parents' expectations. He thought of the mistakes he made earlier. He thought of whether this training was wasting time. He thought about everything except the stone in his hand. And just like Chun predicted, he placed the 4th stone down slightly crooked. Chun clapped once. "You lost the stone." Liang felt frustration burning in his chest. "Is everything I do wrong?" "No," Chun said. "But everything you do reveals your mind. You think you are focusing, but you are only touching focus. Then you abandon it." Liang looked at the stone pile. There were at least 50 more to move. He swallowed hard. For the next hour, he carried stone after stone. Some he placed correctly. Many he didn't. But slowly something changed. He began to feel the weight of each stone. The texture, the temperature, the rhythm of walking, the soft tap when he placed it down. For the first time, he wasn't thinking of the past or the future. He wasn't imagining success or fearing failure. He was present in the act itself. Chun noticed it. "You are learning one mind," the old monk said quietly. Liang felt it too. Not in his thoughts, but in his body. The tension in his chest eased. His breathing slowed. The noise in his head softened. It wasn't peace. Not yet. But it was direction. After finishing the stones, Chun said, "You have begun the path. But this is only the surface." He pointed at Liang's heart. "Your true battle is not with the tasks. It is with the part of you that always tries to escape the moment." Liang knew Chun was right. His entire life, he had escaped. From discomfort, from boredom, from slow progress, from the quiet moments where his mind forced him to face himself. One mind was not about becoming smarter. It was about learning how to stay. Chun ended the day with one final lesson. The world is full of people who want to do 10 things at once. They will always lose to the person who can do one thing fully. Liang bowed deeply. He didn't feel enlightened. He didn't feel strong. He didn't feel transformed. But he felt something he had never felt before. A tiny thread of control reconnecting inside his mind. And tomorrow, Chun said, they would go deeper. Into silence. Into stillness. Into the heart of distraction itself. The real training was about to begin. Chapter 3. The silence that hits hard. Liang arrived earlier than usual the next morning. He didn't know whether he was motivated or afraid. Maybe both. The air was colder today. Mist curled around the courtyard tiles like slow-moving smoke. The mountain felt still, almost expectant, as if it knew something he didn't. Chun stood in the center of the courtyard, hands behind his back. No brush today? Liang asked, noticing the empty ground. No stones either, Chen replied. Today you face something heavier. Liang tried to guess. Physical training? Meditation? Reciting ancient texts? None felt especially frightening. Chen pointed to the meditation hall. Inside. Liang followed him through the wooden doorway. The room was simple. Tatami mats, empty walls, a faint scent of incense from some past ritual. Nothing else. No distractions. No tasks. Nothing to do but exist. Chen motioned for Liang to sit. He sat. Today's training is the core of one mind, Chen said. Silence. Liang blinked. Just silence. Chen's gaze sharpened. Silence is never just silence. It is the battlefield where the mind reveals its true nature. Liang swallowed. The room suddenly felt smaller. Here's the practice, Chen said. Sit. Breathe. Do nothing. Follow nothing. Push nothing away. You will not chant. You will not imagine. You will not chase calm. Liang nodded. And you will not escape. Liang's spine stiffened. That word cut deeper than anything else so far. Escape. He knew the word too well. Close your eyes, Chen instructed. Liang did. At first, nothing happened. He breathed. He sat. He waited. His mind was quiet for maybe 10 seconds. Then, the first thought came. Did I do the stone exercise properly yesterday? Then another. What if I can't do this? Then another. What if this whole training is pointless? What if I'm wasting time? Then another. What am I supposed to feel right now? Why aren't I feeling anything? Thoughts multiplied faster than he could catch them. He felt frustration rising inside him like heat under his ribs. Chen's voice broke through the storm. You are fighting. Stop fighting. I'm not trying to fight, Liang said. Yes, you are. You want control already. You are forcing stillness. That is resistance. Let the mind wander. Let the noise speak. But do not follow it. How do I not follow it? By returning, Chen said. Always returning. Returning to what? Breath, sound, body, this moment, anything that anchors you. Liang tried again. He breathed slowly, watched his thoughts, watched them swirl like dust and light. At first, it seemed like there were too many to handle. Random, heavy, chaotic. But as minutes passed, a strange pattern emerged. Most thoughts were repetitive, useless, loops that circled back to each other. Worries about the future, regrets from the past, self-criticism, imaginary conversations, doubts. He had never noticed how loud he was inside. The silence amplified everything he had spent years avoiding. This time, he didn't try to shut it down. He let it play. He watched it like clouds drifting across the sky. And slowly, something shifted. The noise didn't disappear, but its grip loosened. The thoughts were like children shouting for attention. When he stopped reacting, they quieted on their own. Chen spoke softly. You see, the mind is not your enemy, but it becomes one when you force it to be silent. Liang opened his eyes. That was harder than the brush and stones combined. Chen chuckled. Silence always is. You can run from a task. You cannot run from yourself. They sat together for a few minutes in peaceful stillness. Then Chen stood. Time for the next exercise. Liang followed him into the open courtyard. Chen handed him a bamboo stick, no thicker than a finger. What do I do with it? Liang asked. Hold it, Chen said. Liang gripped the stick lightly. No, Chen corrected. Hold it with your full attention. If one thought pulls your mind away, the stick will tell you. How? Chen stepped behind him and tapped his wrist with his own bamboo stick, not painfully, but enough to jolt him. Liang flinched. What was that for? You lost the stick. Liang frowned. You held it, Chen continued. But your mind left it for half a second. The body betrays the mind. You tensed. Your fingers tightened. The stick felt it. Liang stared at the bamboo in his hand. It seemed impossibly simple. Again, Chen said. Liang focused. He felt the smoothness, the cool temperature, the weight. A thought appeared. What if he hits me again? Tap. Chen struck him lightly on the wrist. You lost the stick. Liang clenched his jaw. He reset. Focused again. Another thought. This is stupid. Tap. You lost the stick. It became a rhythm. Focus. Thought. Tap. Focus. Thought. Tap. After 10 minutes, Liang's hand tingled. After 20, sweat formed at his hairline. After 30, something unexpected happened. The thoughts kept coming, but his attention stopped moving toward them. They floated. They whispered. But they no longer dragged his mind away. For the first time, he was holding something fully. Jin noticed the change. Good, he said. Now walk. Liang walked across the courtyard while holding the stick. Every step revealed something. If he thought too fast, tap. If he drifted into the future, tap. If he drifted into the past, tap. But after a while, his movements smoothed out. He wasn't thinking about the stick anymore. He wasn't thinking about his feet. He wasn't thinking at all. He was simply there, fully present, fully engaged, fully alive in one moment. Chun finally said, "Stop." Liang turned around. The old monk looked pleased. Not smiling, but satisfied. "You just tasted one mind," Chun said. "Real focus feels like this. Not tense, not forced, not hyperactive, not frozen." "It felt quiet," Liang said. "Because true focus is quiet," Chun replied. "The world teaches you the opposite. It teaches you intensity, not clarity. It teaches you pressure, not presence." Liang absorbed the words carefully. Chun continued, "One mind is not about eliminating distractions. It is about eliminating the movement toward distractions. A dog will bark. A bird will call. A thought will appear. None of that matters. What matters is whether your mind chases it." Liang lowered his head. "I've been chasing everything my whole life. There is no shame in that," Chun said. "The world is designed to pull you. You must learn to hold your ground." Chun gestured for Liang to sit again. "You will end today with one final lesson," he said. Chun lifted his stick and pointed around the courtyard. "The world has always been noisy, but only a distracted mind suffers from noise. A focused mind hears everything and is bothered by nothing." Liang closed his eyes. He felt the bamboo stick still warm in his hand. He breathed deeply. For the first time since he came to the mountain, he felt like he was beginning to understand the shape of his own mind. Not mastery, not control, just understanding. And that understanding felt like light. A faint glow, small, but unmistakable. Chun bowed his head slightly. "You are ready," he said. "Tomorrow we begin breaking the deeper habits, the ones that hide beneath your thinking." Liang nodded. He left the temple slowly, the bamboo stick still in his hand. He didn't feel victorious. He didn't feel proud. He didn't feel enlightened. He felt raw, exposed, but grounded, more than he had ever felt before. Tomorrow would be harder. He knew that. But for the first time in his life, he wasn't running. He was returning. Chapter 4. The day mind became a weapon. Liang woke before sunrise. Not because of discipline. Not because of motivation. Because something inside him had shifted. For the first time in years, his mind didn't wake him with noise. No scattered thoughts. No unfinished worries. No mental clutter. Just a clear, steady awareness. He sat up slowly in the dim light. The bamboo stick rested on the floor beside his futon, exactly where he had placed it the night before. He picked it up. It felt different now, not like a training tool, but like a reminder of who he was trying to become. A man with a still mind. A man who doesn't scatter. A man who hits one target without blinking. He didn't know how long that feeling would last, but he intended to use it while he had it. He walked to the courtyard. Mist hung low. The stones were cold beneath his feet. Chun was already there, standing with his hands folded behind him. The old monk studied Liang for a long moment before speaking. "Your eyes are quieter today." Liang nodded. "Something feels different. I can't explain it." "You don't need to," Chun said. "Silence speaks for itself." He motioned for Liang to sit, but this time outside, not in the meditation hall. Right in the middle of the courtyard, exposed to the wind, the passing birds, the shifting daylight. Today, Chen said, your mind becomes a blade. Liang raised a brow. A blade. Yes. Yesterday, you learned awareness. Today, you learned direction. Chen circled him slowly. A blade that is sharp but swings wildly is useless. A blade that is controlled but dull is also useless. The mind must be both sharp and directed. Liang's breath deepened. He sensed something important was coming. Chen continued. The one-mind focus method isn't only about preventing distraction. It's about creating a level of sustained attention so strong that it becomes destructive. Liang frowned. Destructive. Chen nodded. A strong mind destroys what weakens it. He paused, letting the words land. Fear, doubt, hesitation, confusion, overthinking, mental noise. Each of these is an enemy. And today, you will learn how to cut. Liang's pulse quickened. This was no longer basic training. Stand, Chen said. Liang stood. Chen handed him a wooden staff, longer and heavier than the bamboo stick. This staff represents your attention. Heavy, simple, direct, no decoration. Liang gripped it with both hands. Now listen carefully, Chen said. There are 3 enemies you must eliminate, and each one requires a different technique. He pointed at the ground. Enemy 1, the pull. The pull. Liang echoed. Yes, the pull is the force that drags you away from the present moment. It can be a sound, a thought, a memory, a fear, a desire. Anything that takes your mind off your task. Chen stepped forward and tapped the staff. When your attention is pulled, you cut by returning instantly. He snapped his fingers. No hesitation. No debate. No negotiation. You return like a blade slicing through smoke. Chen walked behind Liang. You will hold your staff steady while I create distractions. Birds, wind, footsteps, sudden noises. You will not respond, not even internally. Liang tightened his grip. Chen began. A stone hit the ground near Liang. Liang flinched. Cut, Chen said sharply. Liang returned to the staff. A moment later, Chen clapped loudly behind him. Liang's shoulders jumped before he could stop them. Cut, Chen repeated. Another clap. Liang steadied faster. Again. Chen dropped another stone. Liang held his ground. Better, Chen murmured. But then Chen whispered directly into his ear. Failure. The word hit harder than any sound. Liang's muscles tightened. Chen tapped his shoulder. Cut. Liang breathed out. Returned to stillness. That is enemy 1, Chen said. Now we move to enemy 2. He walked to the other side of the courtyard. Enemy 2, the spiral. Liang nodded slowly. He knew this one well. The spiral is when one thought triggers another and another and another until you are lost in a story your mind created. Chen pointed at him. You do not cut the spiral by fighting it. Fighting a story strengthens it. So how do I cut it? Liang asked. You cut it by naming it. Liang frowned. Naming it? Yes. When the mind begins spinning a story, you simply say, internally, thinking, and then return to your task. Liang considered that. Chen stood in front of him. Hold the staff again. Liang raised it. When I speak, your mind will begin to spiral. That is normal. Your job is to name it before it takes you. Chen began softly. What if you fail? What if nothing changes? What if you disappoint your family? What if everything you're doing is useless? What if? Thinking, Liang whispered. The spiral snapped instantly. Chen's expression darkened with approval. Again he spoke. Remember the project you abandoned? Remember how they judged you? Remember how they expected you to fail? Liang's mind jerked toward the memories. He felt the pull of shame, the heat of regret. Thinking, he whispered again. The story evaporated. Chen stepped closer. One more. His voice lowered. Remember the person you lost. The person whose voice you still hear. The one who. Thinking. Chen stared at him for a long moment, eyes sharp. Good, he said softly. Very good. Then he lifted the staff from Liang's hands and replaced it with the bamboo stick from yesterday. This final enemy, Chen said, is the worst one. He took a step back. Enemy 3, the avalanche. Liang felt a coldness in his chest. What is that? He asked. The avalanche is when the pull and the spiral combine. When distractions and stories fall on you at the same time. Doubts, fears, memories, noise, sensations, everything crashing at once. Chen lowered his voice. You cannot cut the avalanche with skill. It is too fast, too heavy, too chaotic. Liang's grip tightened. Then how do I cut it? Chen held up a single finger. One breath. Liang blinked. One breath. Yes. The avalanche attacks because you have left the body. You return to the body by taking one deep, slow breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Nothing else. He pointed at Liang's chest. That breath is the blade. Liang nodded. He understood. Chen stepped back 10 paces. Prepare yourself, he said quietly. Liang braced himself. At first, there was silence. Then Chen struck. Not with staff or stick, but with sound. A loud shout from behind. A rock thrown on stone. A gust of wind through the courtyard. Then Chen's voice mixed in. You cannot do this. You will fail again. You are wasting your time. Everyone is ahead of you. Everyone is stronger than you. Everyone is watching you fail. Liang felt the avalanche hit. His thoughts exploded. Noise everywhere. Pressure in his chest. Heat behind his eyes. He almost panicked. Then he remembered. Not the stick. Not the staff. Not the naming. Just the breath. He inhaled slowly, deeply, down into his belly. He exhaled. Long. Controlled. The avalanche didn't disappear, but something inside him rooted, anchored, held. Chen watched him quietly. You are cutting, he whispered. Liang opened his eyes. The courtyard looked the same as always, but something in him had changed. The noise was still present. The thoughts still flickered. The doubts still whispered. But they no longer commanded him. They no longer owned him. Chen approached slowly. Today, he said, your mind became sharp enough to cut distraction. That is rare. That is powerful. He placed a hand on Liang's shoulder. But now comes the true work. A blade is only as useful as the warrior who wields it. You must decide what you will cut and what you will protect. Liang swallowed. He understood. This wasn't about productivity. It wasn't about efficiency. It wasn't about becoming faster, smarter, or more disciplined. It was about becoming whole. Chen turned and began walking away. Tomorrow, he said without looking back, we see how you fight in the real world. Liang stood in the courtyard, bamboo stick in hand, breathing steadily. He didn't feel enlightened. He didn't feel invincible. He didn't feel finished. He felt ready, for the first time in his life, ready to face the world without running from his mind. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, I want you to pause for a moment and acknowledge something most people never see in themselves. You have the rare willingness to study your own mind. You're not running from your distractions anymore. You're choosing to face them. That already puts you ahead of most. Now I want you to do one thing. Not 10. Not a full strategy. Just one. Comment below the smallest action you'll take tomorrow morning to train your mind. It could be sitting for 60 seconds without touching your phone. It could be finishing one task without switching tabs. It could be placing your phone in another room before you start working. Something small enough that you can't lie to yourself about doing it. Write it publicly, because the moment you write it, you've made a commitment. And commitment is the moment the mind begins to sharpen. In 2 weeks, I'll come back and look through the comments. I'll look for the people who actually followed through. The ones who took their mind seriously. The ones who used this video as a starting point, not just inspiration. Remember, the mind isn't weak. It's untrained. And training begins with a single choice. Focus on one thing and refuse to escape. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your presence today. I hope this helped you see what your mind is capable of becoming. I'll see you in the next video. Stay steady, stay aware, walk the path with intention.